Do it.
Go ahead.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our next mastermind session. And I don't think this gentleman needs a lot of introduction because hopefully a lot of you were in Greensboro on September of last year when John absolutely lit the room up with his presentation, and he became an instant celebrity in Greensboro. If you don't know John, I will tell you that he is a coach who has been coaching for a number of years. I guess you're probably over 14,000 coaching calls by now.
Close. We're close.
Enough. Imagine 14,000 coaching calls. He launched a one-to-many of coaching environment about 6 months ago, and you have hundreds of people on that event as well, right, John?
We do, and it's definitely growing. And I know just even our, like you guys get to work with you guys and being able to, y'all are able to take advantage of that as well. So it's been good, and it's ever evolving, and it's going to continue to evolve. And as we're going to be bringing additional coaches in that are going to specialize in being able to add more value to that community.
Yeah. So one of the things we really love about John, Scott, myself, and Karen and Jamie is that John brings a perspective that you stay within the guardrails and you don't get all whacked out about how things are going in the market. And we all know right now it's a very difficult market because we're working extra hard to get sales approved, and it's hard, right? So John's going to speak about happiness a bit tonight, which is something we all need a little bit of, and some other topics. And I will tell you what John's going to give you tonight is a preview of what he will be speaking at next week at the EXP event in Orlando. So you're going to get a sneak peek preview that is awesome. You're going to be able to, if you're not going to be in Orlando, you're going to tell people that you know all about what happened down there. John, take it away. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Always an honor to jump in and hang out with you guys, and never turn down the opportunity, and I definitely appreciate you guys a lot. And so I was really kind of thinking through when we had talked about coming in and really adding value to the community, really around we're talking around kind of mindset, just kind of where people are in today's, just kind of where things are at. And I had on the podcast, the last three if you guys aren't if you find value, I'm gonna get the ask out early. If you find value in what we're doing and tonight, man, go subscribe to the podcast, coachcodepodcast.com, anywhere that you listen to the podcast, Coach Code Podcast. And we drop an episode every day, Monday through Friday. However, on Thursdays at 10 Central, we go live, and that's the actual. We have a couple. If you really want to look at the podcast, it's like an overall experience. It's like, think about like what Gary Vee does. He has all these different conversations that get chopped up and dropped into the podcast. So we drop mine, Jay, and Al's conversations that we have every Tuesday on the podcast. I do Expert Mentors. We're 189 episodes with Expert Mentors that gets dropped on the podcast. We drop, and then we drop Coach Code. So that's the actual conversations. Well, the last 3 Thursdays have been really incredible. I had my personal coach, Coach Matt Townsend, on. He's the gentleman that I get to that helps me unlock my potential. And then I had a gentleman by the name of Jamie Miller on, really how to better communicate, how we can increase our communication. And I think that's going to be one of the most critical skills that we have to really focus on and pay attention to moving forward is our ability to communicate at a higher level. And he left a nugget, and he actually, Michael, I don't know if you got to catch this, but he actually called his daughter, his 13-year-old daughter, on the podcast, called her. He said, I'm going to ask her one question. And he finally, they missed each other, but he ended up calling her back. And he said, Ruby, what is the golden rule of communication? And she did not hesitate and said it with certainty. And she goes, always ask permission. And there's a lot of reasoning behind that, but it really gets the other person to open their mind to be able to connect. And so if you guys get a chance, go back and listen to that. It was an incredible conversation. And then I had Wally on today, and it was one of the most raw, real, vulnerable, powerful conversations that we've had. I've known Wally since 2005. I know what he's been through. I know his journey. I know the shit that he's had to deal with, and the reality is that we all have shit to deal with. And it's do we have the courage to face it? And he shares, he was an hour away from taking his life, and he made the decision that he had more to live for. And so there's a lot of things that we need to be doing to protect our mental space, and what are we doing to improve the mental space. And I want to, after I kind of walk you guys through this presentation that I'm going to give at shareholders in a couple of weeks, I want to talk about happiness. It's something that Coach Matt and I have been working on, that we talked about it on the podcast. He gave a couple great examples, some exercises, some things that where we need to be paying attention to. And I'll say it again, but I'm going to drop it right now. If you have not gone through The Gap and the Gain, it has to be your number one book that you have to listen to right now. And because if you're struggling with anything, you have to understand that concept. And Wally and I talked a little bit about it today because of the suicide of what's going on and what's happening. And Dan Sullivan in the book, he addresses that in the opening chapter. He hits it right on. And understanding the concept of staying and living in the gap. And that's where Wally was at. Wally was in the gap. But what happened is when he made a decision, because he went to the gain, because he started thinking about his kids. And he started thinking about the wins in his life. And the thing is that I promise you, every one of you that listens to this, that's tuning in, you're winning every day. You just have to acknowledge it. And so what are you doing from a discipline standpoint to acknowledge it? And for me, I got an alarm on my phone. It goes off at 9:45 p.m. every night, and it says wins. When that goes off, I go into my phone. I open my notes, and I go to gratitude and wins. I have a note for gratitude and wins. So when I wake up in the morning, the very first thing I do is I write down the 5 things that I'm most grateful for. And then at 9:45, I go in and I write in all of my wins for today. And that allows you to stay in the game because you are winning every damn day. And you just have to acknowledge it. And so I do want to come back. I do want to come back to that a little bit, Michael. I know you have some thoughts around that. I know you can add some perspective and maybe even some questions that we can pull out. But as far as the shareholders conversation, so shareholders this year really was running with the theme of building a better, bigger, better business. Now, I am going to throw, because I'm going to share my slides with you guys. I'm going to walk you through this. Their color choice, the graphics, definitely not my choice. Like it's hideous. Like whoever designed that, like I would fire them. That's how bad it is. But they had a theme that they were running with, and I think if I tell this story, it will it'll help. It'll help a lot. Let me pull this real quick, because there's a lesson here that I want you guys to take away. And so the theme for shareholders this year is building a bigger, brighter future. And I saw the apply for speakers, right? Hey, if you want to present, you gotta apply. Here's the lesson for all of you. You have to get in and add value anywhere you can. So the second somebody says to you, will you say, yes, I will. Don't even let them finish. So like, hey, will you jump on the podcast? Hey, will you help us with this training? Will you do this? Will you speak here? Will you do this? The answer is always yes. Because you never know who you're going to impact. So last year, I was asked to do part of the Excel series on the training side inside of the world. And there's a lady in there that's really kind of head of the training. And I can't remember where she was, what large coaching organization she was at prior to coming to EXP, but her name is Judy Slack. And so when I was going through the Excel process, and I had to do 6 sessions over 6 weeks, an hour each. And I got to working with Judy, and I guess I had a tremendous impact on kind of what I just delivered. I just delivered what I do, right? Talking about, right things, right order. You have to have a grand vision. You got to have the right business model. You got to have the right strategy. You got to have the right people. You got to know how to lead others, yourself, others, and lead others to lead others at a high level. And then we talked about, the systems and processes that bring it all together. So when I submitted my application, and come to find out, so I had to say, hey, yeah, hey, congratulations, you're one of the speakers. I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. And I was like, I'm sure there was a bunch of people that were selected as speakers. And I jumped on a discovery call to kind of talk about the theme and what they were going to do. And the lady that I had the conversation with, she goes, I don't know what you did, but you damn sure made an impression. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, there were over 500 applications submitted and you were selected. Wow. I was like, how is that possible? And she goes, you made an impact on Judy because Judy selected you. I was like, that's incredible. That's awesome. So when we were going through, we were talking through the theme. So that my point is that anytime that you guys get an opportunity to share your unique ability, to add value, to contribute, to collaborate, you say yes. You never know what door that's going to open for you. And plus, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And so knowing the theme and knowing kind of Judy paying attention, I said, where do you guys want me to go with this? And they were, when we kind of talked through and we got around it, and it was really about the topic we ended up coming up with was unlock the best version of your business. And Michael, Scott, Karen, you know this. I believe at my core that the size of your business is in direct proportion to the size of your leadership capabilities. Like if you want a better business, you got to be a better human. You got to be a better person. You got to increase your capabilities. You got to increase your skill set. So what I told her, I was like, you have to unlock the best version of yourself if you want to unlock the best version of your business. And they go, ding, that's it. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I can run with that. And so I'm going to run you guys through kind of where we landed and what we came up with. And I think Jamie gave me the ability to share the screen. So I'm gonna do this. Now, when I go into slideshow mode, okay, I can still see you guys. Okay, my computer was a little crazy. Are we good? Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the actual slide deck. So we laid out the slides in typical John Kitchens, like badass slides, and they destroyed every one of them. So this is not my doing. I'm going to throw that out there. All right, so we're going to dive into really, unlocking, the best version, unlocking your business. but it really, you have to unlock yourself first. It's the whole oxygen mask. You know, you're no good. I just believe you can't lead and coach another human until you can lead and coach yourself first. So let's talk through the 6 ways to unlock your potential, how to develop your potential, and how to live to your potential. And after this, well, I want to jump in. I want to touch just how much time we have. I want to touch on, you know, kind of things that we need to be focused on to increase our happiness, and then any other questions that we have. And so this gets people's attention, right? The king eats first. You're like, the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, leaders eat last. The king eats first. And the reason is that if you don't make yourself healthy, if you don't take care of yourself, if you're not doing the things in the discipline to increase your, you know, your level of your health, of your business, of your relationships, of the relationship with yourself, then there is no way that you can even remotely come to the potential that we all have inside of us. And so I truly, truly believe that for any of us to unlock our business's potential, we have to unlock our potential first, period. All right, so here are the 6 ways to be thinking about how we want to unlock our potential. Number 1, we have to commit to continuous growth personally and professionally. Have to. What are you investing in dollars on your personal and professional development this year? Jim Rohn, 10%. You want to make $1 million, you better be investing $100,000. What is it that you've invested? Before we went live, I had challenged everybody at the kitchen table at the beginning of the year. What are your top 5 Blue Marlin relationships this year? Who are you getting in proximity to? And I shared, I knew I had 3. I just nailed my 4th one. I still got 1 more to go, Michael. I'll figure out that 5th one.
You'll get them.
But what are you doing to invest, to get close into those relationships? Coach Burt was one of mine, right? I mean, Coach Burt's Monster Growth Training went to the lodge. Like, it ain't easy to get to the lodge. Like, you ain't taking an Uber to the lodge. Like, you have to rent a car, and that's the first time that I've rented a car in 10 years traveling. And so it's like, how do you do this? Where do you go? What do you do? But you have to make that investment. Are you committed to make an investment personally and professionally? I knew it was going to give me fits. All right. Number 2 is that we have to consistently engage in disciplined thought, make sure we're taking disciplined action, and that we're getting the job done. We're making things happen. But it comes down to that word, discipline. We were sitting, Michael, I don't think you hadn't made it to kitchen table yet. This was the first or second kitchen table we did. And we're sitting there, and Renee Velasquez is sitting there. And this was when we were still doing it in the Airbnbs. So it was like, you know, we had dinner.
Cozy.
Of course, we had some cocktails, and we were sitting there, and Renee, we were just talking, and everybody was talking, and Renee goes, John, you've coached a lot of amazing, you know, humans and business leaders over the last decade. She goes, what is the one thing that stands out from those that excel to those that don't make it? I didn't even hesitate. The word discipline came out of my mouth. I was like, discipline. Those that are the most disciplined to the process, ones that are the most disciplined to the plan, one that are the most disciplined to the vision, one that are the most disciplined to the processes, are the ones that excel. And so one of the things that I had kind of picked up on over the years too was the ability to stay consistent. And so you look at the combination of the two. Are you consistently disciplined or are you not? You know, when I was out in California working at the golf course and teaching the kids, one of the determining factors that determines discipline, and especially in kids, is do they make their bed in the morning when they get up? And my golfers, the kids that did, they were leaps and bounds ahead of the other kids that weren't disciplined to that. So consistently disciplined. The third thing is we have to obsess on contribution. We have to obsess on care, and we have to obsess on experience for ourselves first, our team, our clients, and our community. We have to obsess over those. It's not enough to just, hey, yeah, I'm going to contribute, I'm going to care, and I'm going to worry about the experience for myself, my team, my clients, and my community. No, you have to obsess over it. You have to obsess over it. 4, we have to be solution focused. Period. There is always a solution. There is always a move. You know, the only time that you don't have a move is when you quit. There is always a move. And we have to be 100% responsible for our actions and our results. It's 100-0. It's extreme ownership. Okay? You have to make sure that we're not wearing our victim shades. We have our accountability shades on. We take ownership in what it is that we do. And we own it.
Hey, John,
and then from there...
John, repeat that last point about the shades.
Hey, do you have your victim shades on or do you have your accountability shades on? It's up to you. What shades are you wearing today? And you got your victim glasses or you got your accountability glasses on? I love that. That was always our fun one. When somebody was being a victim, he's like, oh man, you got them victim shades on today, don't you? It was just a way to kind of interrupt the pattern of their thoughts. And we've got to have fun. Right? I mean, shit, if it ain't fun, why are you doing it? And that comes back down to one of the key tenets of motivation, right? Remember, nobody can motivate us. People can inspire us. Motivation that comes from within. And one of the tenets of motivation is fun. Got to make sure what you're doing is having fun. So living passionately with an attitude of gratitude. What is your gratitude practice? I shared mine, right? Every morning I wake up with 5 things that I'm most grateful for. That's on my mind. Have fun, live passion with an attitude of gratitude. And this one's tough. But we want to make sure that we're practicing respectful, honest, and kind communication. We can be candid. We can be very candid in our communication. But we can also be kind with it. And you know who this is the most important to? The communication to ourselves. Nobody's going to be harder on us than ourselves. So we've got to make sure, are we being respectful? Are we being honest? Are we being kind? Remember though, we're honest, we're 100% responsible, we're candid, but we have to be there, okay? And the reality, guys, you know what those 6 points are? Those 6 points are our core values. That's what we live and breathe. We make decisions, our shoulds and should nots, in our organization every damn day. You have to live it. And so people are like, okay, well, core values. Yeah, core values. And they come from you, the leader. Do they grow and modify over time with key people in the organization? Sure. But guess what? You hired them based upon your values. And so they embody those values as well. And so when you look at that, it all starts with our core values. And core values are just a small set of vital and timeless guiding principles for your company. And that's not said by Garrett J. White. That's said by Gino Wickman. It's a picture of Gino. And so Gino has the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Organization System, traction, and understanding kind of what those business building principles are. So how to develop this? So we understand what those are. We understand how important they are. So how do we develop them? So one of the ways within your organization is that we can have each member of our organization list 3 people who, if you could clone them, would lead you to market domination. Who are 3 people, man? If we can clone these 3 people and we could have 10x the amount of these people, like we would take over the world. We would dominate our market. The next thing is you want to go over the names and the list of characteristics that these people embody. What do they stand for? What are their qualities? What do they do that puts them on the list? Why are they on the list? I remember when we were doing our first core value exercise within, we were still Jake Hinder home selling team. We were still under Caldwell Banker before we went independent. And once we realized borrowing somebody else's core values didn't work, we, at the time, Chad Goldwasser, a good friend of ours, he was number 1 in the world for KW at the time. We're like, oh, this dude's number 1 in the world, core values? Oh, shit. If he's number 1, then he's got to be our core values too. That's how we thought. And once we realized that wasn't the way to go, we did this exercise right here. And we had a big wall that was nothing but a whiteboard. And Jay and I would be like, what do we like about that person? What do they stand for? We'd write it on the board. And we had, 40 things up there. And over time, they got whittled down. And when you look at it, you look at all of those things and you do, like Jay would be like, here's what I love about you. And Jay is like, here's what I love about you. And, we would get all of those things up there. And what we realized and what we found is that our core values are somewhere in that long list. And it took time to narrow it down. We would have an experience and we'd be like, that sucked. And we'd look on the board, was it on there? If it wasn't, we'd put it on there. Or, nah, that ain't us. That ain't us. That ain't something that we believe, that we embody. And so really being able to whittle it down. And over time, through discussion, we were really able to decide which belonged and which were truly core, okay? Which were truly core. So how do you live this potential? How do you live it? Our core values really have to become the guiding force in our organization. It should be incorporated into everything. Our hiring, our training, and our firing processes. How do we praise? Right? How do we acknowledge? How do we reward? Has to be based on these values. It gives us the ability to attract like-minded people to our organization and weed out people that don't fit. I'll tell you how powerful this is. So I have the opportunity to coach Andrew Franklin. Andrew, they've been, top 3 team at EXP ever since they've been there. In straight up growth mode. I think they were number 2 last year. They'll probably be number 2 or number 3 this year. They'll get back to the top though, just in kind of the things that they're doing and what they're working on. But Andrew never really embodied or understood the power of the core values until they did it. And now, he had to let go of almost a lifelong employee because she wasn't a core value fit. And as soon as he made the decision to let her go, he had half of the company come up to him and say, thank you. Thank you. We knew she wasn't a fit. And so when you start to see these and you start to, here's what this really does. This gives you a filter to make better decisions. See, the reason that most people don't move fast enough is they don't know how to make decisions correctly, or they don't know how to make decisions fast enough. And it's because they don't have a framework. They don't have a filter to be able to run these through. So attract and weed out people that don't fit. Hire, fire, review, reward, recognize. This is how we build a thriving culture around them. And as we know, right, every phase, man, we get confronted. Something that scares us that we go through. We don't know how to do it, but we just have to do the dang work. And I'm going to leave it there because I kind of get to go into, making kind of the offer. I can't believe they're letting me do this, but they're letting me, push people to the growth assessment, my growth score. I know Michael, Karen, Scott, you all took it. I looked at the scores the other day. Michael's was the highest. Scott and Karen were a little bit less, but it's just really powerful to see where we believe we're stuck in our organizations, and so that's really there. Cool.
Hey, John, that was terrific. So, what I love about that was that people are too short-sighted about what they're accomplishing and how they're going to get to where they want to be, and they give up. They don't give it enough time. They don't have the courage to stay with it like you were talking about. And then they try something else, and they get caught in this hamster wheel because they're off to the next thing, and they're running around that hamster wheel. And to have the courage and the conviction and the discipline, like you talked about, to stay with it, because you don't do anything less than 90 days before you find out if it works, right? Isn't that what you tell us?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So, quick example, literally for 17 months, one account, 9 offers declined, never gave up on that client, and they never gave up on trying to buy a home because that's what their goal was, and they got there. They could have given up. They could have fired me. They, Scott's been there. We've all been there, right? But it's having the conviction to keep going for that goal. So I love what you said about that. It's so important in this market.
It really is. And, understanding, it's a delayed gratification business. And so what we do today won't show up in the bank account for 60, 90 days anyways.
Right.
That's why I always say, if you don't have any money in your account right now and you're in real estate, I want to know what you were doing 90 days ago, because it's just the lagging indicator. Your bank account is the lagging indicator. So that's why we have to get back to really focused on what it is that's within my control that I can do today that's going to help me move my business forward. Is that within my control? What's in my bank account is not within my control. What's within my control are the activities that will put money in that bank account. Right. And did I do those activities today or not? Was I disciplined to those activities or not?
So if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat for John now, and he'll be happy to answer them. And if you can't answer them during this session, he'll answer them back. But don't be afraid to ask questions, because he's great at giving you the responses. And if you haven't read that book, The Gap in the Game, Scott's read it, I've read it, I hope some of you have read it. That helps you get through those situations where, do I give up on this client, or am I ever going to help them? How about thinking about, I got that client, it's a viable client, I got them to an offer, it didn't work, they're sticking with me, they trust me. It's all about, like John said, reflect on the positive so you don't get in the gap where you start saying, I'm a failure, I didn't take care of that person. It's really important in this market to think about what you've accomplished.
Yeah. It comes back down to, always staying a student, always learning. What am I learning here? Where am I off? Okay, we didn't get the offer accepted. Where did we go wrong? What do we need to be doing better? What tweaks do we need to make? What adjustments do we need to make? It's just constant, just feedback loops. And that's, being able to move faster with that. And two, making sure that, we are staying in the game, because when we get in the gap, then that's where, we become paralyzed in our action. And so we want to know, damn, I am winning every day. And we're able to build on that momentum every day. So like in the real estate side of things, you think about what's within my control that can help me move my business forward today. And it's only a handful of things. there's only a handful of things that truly matter in this business. And it's our lead gen activities. It's our ability to engage and turn those leads into appointments, being able to meet with people and articulate our value to where they believe we have the best process to help them accomplish what they want to accomplish. If we're working with buyers, showing properties, and then negotiating deals, there's only 5 things that matter in this business. That's it. And our rule of thumb is 70% of your working time has to be dedicated to those activities. So what I would ask is like, show me your calendar from 90 days ago. Show me your calendar. And I want to go to show me a week. Let's go back 90 days from this week. Show me your calendar and let me add up the amount of time you spent on those 5 activities that week. And then how much time did you spend on those 5 activities the next week? Because that's what's going to indicate what's going to be deposited into your bank account is what you did during that time frame. And 70%. And so you're like, hey, Michael, man, I got a short week. I'm traveling. Well, how much are you going to be able to work? And I can get 10 hours. I can work 10 hours this week. Great. So let me look at your calendar. There better be 7 hours of those activities in the calendar. And so that's just where that's the autopsy. That's just where you have to look. You have to just make sure that you're getting enough of the things that matter. So one of the things that we do with I really push everybody I work with to hold this level of accountability. And I got this from my very dear friend Blake Sloan, who's in Myrtle Beach. Blake's a beast. They'll do they'll make a run at 1,000 transactions this year. They did 840 something last year. His lead listing guy sold 168 houses last year. Put about 350,000 in his pocket. Here's what they do every morning before 9 o'clock. They declare what it is that they are going to do today that's within their control, that's going to move them closer to new business today. Everybody on the team has to declare it. I think he's around 20 something. He might be maybe more than that. He's in the 20s on the team. So every morning before 9 a.m., everybody's going in and they use, I don't know what they use. We use Slack. So whatever communication channel that you guys use. And they go in and they say, 2 appointments, 200 dials, 3 hours of prospecting, whatever it is. But think about that. There's only a couple things that are within your control that's going to help you get new business today. Hey, I'm going to take a listing today. That's not within your control. Hey, I've got 2 appointments that I'm going to meet with today. No, that's not within your control. What if their kids get sick? What if they got to reschedule on you? Guess what? You didn't win today. So what they declare they have to do, and that'll determine if they won the day. Now, here's what they've done with their culture and for the company. Every one of the people that declare that day, every one of them has to win, or the company doesn't win the day. And so what he's done is he created a culture of accountability. He's created a culture of winners. And so for the company to win, every one of you on here has to win. Who's gonna be the one that doesn't allow the company to win today? And so you get everybody fighting for each other, helping them succeed, and they go throughout the day, the communication. Hey, I got my 2 appointments. Hey, I made my 100 dials, right? It's like, congratulations, let's go. Who's left? And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. So we do that even with our team. They have to declare what's their one thing that no matter what happens today, they will get it done. So you could even do it on the administrative marketing side, even if not sales. So he runs that with his sales, and then we do the same thing that his administrative staff does with our team. And by about 8:15 every morning, everybody on my team, hey, this is my one thing for the day. This is my one thing for the day. This is my one thing for the day. And then at the end of the day, hey, did you get your one thing or not? Did you do what you said you were going to do? And if so, we got to win. And then the company gets a win, and then you just build that momentum.
Any questions from you? John, can you go back and just go a little deeper on one of your opening comments about communication and how important that is right now? So I think it'd be important for everybody to understand that.
Yeah. Jamie really broke it down, and I met Jamie at a re-up event that him and I both spoke at for Noah Harris and Jacob Barnhill in Columbia, South Carolina, earlier this year. And Jamie spoke before I did, and I was sitting in the room, and I took 4 pages of notes from this guy. And one, he's got a fascinating accent, so he draws you in. But he just dropped just everything he was saying, and I got the yet from him. He's never say but, always say yet, because people will be like, what are you talking about, right? It throws them off, right? Because if you say but, everything you said before but, nobody they discredit it. So you can say, Michael, I love your tie, but hey, we need to think about this. And they're gonna be like, that dude don't like my tie. Why did he say that? So you gotta eliminate that word, and everything's yet, and then everything's and. So you gotta eliminate that type of communication. What Jamie really got into, and it comes back down to really understanding, for us to have any type of meaningful, powerful conversation, we've always got to open with a question, right? Get permission, just like his daughter shared. So Michael, can I ask you a question? Hey, Michael, can I share something with you? Hey, Michael, can I make an observation? Because now what happens is you get people to set and focus, and their minds open, and they're ready to receive. See, it's such a distracted world. We have to have an ability to get people's attention and for them to stay focused with us. So always leading into communication, any of our communications, with the question. And we talk about this at Kitchen Table, and also declaring what type of conversation we're going to have. Hey, we're not looking to make any decisions right now. Let's just brainstorm some ideas. There'll be a point in this conversation that we need to move to make a decision. Are you okay with that? And so just getting better job at being able to communicate. Communication is a skill. So what are you doing to develop that skill? And really getting into kind of a couple of the other things that he really broke down was the what, the why, the how. So getting permission, and then continuing the questions with what about this intrigues you the most? So when I open that presentation at shareholders, I will hit them with questions. Who believes that, who wants a bigger business? Who wants a better business? Who wants to be a better leader, right? So you're getting them engaged, you're making them think like, well, shit, I do. I want that. So what about this process excites you the most, Michael? Why would that be so important for you? How do we need to move forward with this? Or how is this going to change your life? How is this going to help you get to where you want to go faster? So it's just becoming a better listener, because you're better at asking questions. One of the things that we always talk about, Michael, we talk about this all the time, is what is your question to statement ratio? What is your question to statement ratio? See, the problem is that too many people talk too much, and they don't ask enough questions. So what is your question to statement ratio? And you need to always keep that in check. If you want to be a better leader, you want to be a better owner, you want to be a better parent, you want to be better whatever, you better be asking questions more than you're talking. And we all fall victim to it. I'll jump off and I'll be like, damn, man, I talked the whole damn time. What the hell is going on there? Yeah. So you got to learn from it. So monitor your question to statement ratio, and just stay curious. That's how you ask better questions. Just stay curious. Just keep asking questions. And what's going to happen when you're asking questions is you're allowing the other person to come to their own conclusion.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny you should say that, because on Sunday our pastor's message was, don't be ready to interject a response to somebody's point of view until you've actually heard what they're really saying.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about what you're going to respond, you're really not listening. It's so appropriate what you just said.
Yeah. And, the week before, Matt and I talked about this. We talked about dialogue theory, and we talked about the model of communication, and that, he gave an example because Matt worked under Stephen Covey. He worked for Stephen Covey, and for like 7 years. So he learned a lot of his concepts and things that he does in with relationships and with people and helping people be better coaches and things like that. Is understanding to recognize what is being said, then allow them to explore it. And the example he gave was that they were in a meeting and Dr. Covey said something and Matt kind of rolled his eyes. And instead of Dr. Covey, Matt, berating him in front of everybody, he paused and he recognized and he said, Matt, something I can see something, you don't agree with, something kind of bothers you. Can we pause here for a second and talk about it a little bit? And they explored it. And then once you explore it, you give attention to where they're hurting, to where Matt didn't agree with something. So Dr. Covey allowed the attention to why he was disagreeing with it. And then he lifted the conversation. So Matt calls getting real. So we've got to get real in our conversations. We've got to recognize what's going on. We've got to explore the story. We got to attend to where the issue is. And then we got to lift the conversation, get to the fire, right? Because a lot of things in our communication is smoke. Right. And a lot of communication is smoke. You got to get to the fire. I always say it's always layers deeper. Yeah. It's never at surface value. It's never the smoke. You got to get to the fire. That's the key.
So I think we have a question here, if you don't mind. Okay, I have an issue with small talk because I don't know what questions to ask.
Yeah, you can go to the Ford method, family, occupation, recreation, desires, right? How's the family?
Could you repeat
Where
that
are you
again?
from? Right? How's business? How's your business? Are you guys, accelerating? Are you going as fast, or would you want to go faster? Right? Just always be thinking about it. And here's the good thing. I'll give you guys this exercise. I'll give you, because this is one of the things. So I have I have Microsoft To Do for the checklist and everything. We used to have Wunderlist, and I guess Microsoft bought them, so we had to transfer over. Well, I created a list on here, on there, and I put questions. And so anytime that you hear a good question or you think of a good question, type it in there.
I love it.
That's my go-to process. Now, here's something that's really cool. Somebody gifted me this cool little journal deal. And the paper is it's like, I don't know, it's like old, authentic, it's just the paper's rough, right? It's just got some great texture to it. So what I started to do is I started to write down all of the questions in here that I've ever had that are on here. They're in this book. So guess who's gonna get this when it's time for me to give it to them. Right? This is an asset. Imagine if you were an 18-year-old kid and somebody handed you just a book of questions. Because see what happens, all thinking is questions. That's all we're doing. You want to change your thinking, change the questions you're asking yourself. And so you've got to have these little exercises to be able to capture those things. And then, I'll just, if I'm on the bike, I'll just sit there and I'll just go through my questions again. I got one right here. Ask your kiddos, how did you help somebody today? And did somebody help you? So what is that teaching them, right? Hey, did I acknowledge, did you tell them thank you for helping you? Did you go out of your way and help somebody? And so it's really powerful, right? To be able to do the questions. But if you're lost, just default back on the forward, right? Always go to family, always go to occupation, always go to recreation, what they love doing, and then get back into any of their dreams and desires. Get them forward facing, especially if you're talking to a seller or a buyer, get them thinking about the future.
That's terrific. Thanks, John. You have another event at 7 Eastern, right?
I have a couple minutes. I do want to hit on this, and this is what Matt and I were talking about, and we've been exploring this quite a bit. Been exploring it in really around happiness, and really what truly drives us and what truly makes us happy. And he recommended to take an assessment. In fact, when we wrapped up the podcast, when we were not live, we were just sitting there talking after. He said, "All right, here's your homework." And I'm like, "Oh, I knew I was going to have homework. I get you on the podcast, and then thank you for not billing me to be on the podcast." But he goes, "But you do have homework." And I was like, "Okay, cool." He goes, "I want you to go to," and this is going to be my homework for all of you guys. I want you to go to AuthenticHappiness.org. AuthenticHappiness.org. And where you're going to land on the University of Pennsylvania's website. And toggle up on where it says questionnaire. And you'll go down and you want to take the VIA character strengths. Appreciate y'all bearing with me. I got this freaking head cold that is driving me bananas. So if it sounded a little nasally, that is it.
That's great.
AuthenticHappiness.org, VIA character strengths. Now, be ready. It's 240 questions. When I opened it and I saw it, I was like, geez, Matt, thanks. But it's all multiple choice. So you can breeze through it. It's going to take you a little bit. And what you'll find is a lot of the questions are kind of similar, but one word's different. So it'll kind of confuse you a little bit and get you to think. But what this assessment will do, you'll have to register, you'll have to set it up. You'll be a part of the study at the University of Pennsylvania, but it's free. If you try to Google it and try to take this test, you'll have to pay for it. So this is free. What they've identified, all of us as humans, we have 24 character strengths. Everybody's is different, in a different sequence, in a different order. And when you know your top 5 or 6 character strengths, not like the DISC, not like the Colby, not like an IQ test, but just your character, who you are at your character, at your core. And Matt goes, I want to know the top 6, and then I want to know the bottom 2. And he said that once you understand what your top strengths are, then you have to look at how am I living in those strengths? How am I living in those strengths? And the goal is not to take the ones that are at the bottom and try to strengthen them, bring them to the top, because what happens is that doesn't increase happiness. What increases our happiness is that we're living to our strengths. We're living to our strengths. And we're living to our top 5 or 6 strengths. And so it was really eye-opening and understanding why we do things the way we do. And my number one strength is the capacity to love and be loved. And I value close relationships. That's why Kitchen Table is so intimate and why it's so vulnerable. And you can feel the love in that room. And it's because it's reciprocated. And so that's number one. And 2, like, you start to understand why you behave and you do certain things when you see this. My number 2 is hope, optimism, and future mindedness. I have hope and faith, even for things that are dead, right? Things that are out of my control. I still like, we can survive it. We can. There's hope here. My number 3 is gratitude. I'm extremely aware at a high level of good things that happen to me. And I never take anything for granted. Number 4 is zest, enthusiasm, energy. I'm sure you could never tell that. 5 is perspective, wisdom. And, although I don't see it, clients and people and friends and things that I've had an impact over the years, I've got one of my longest friend that we graduated high school together. He's an incredible builder up here in the OKC area. And he watches all my stuff. And I had dinner with him the other night, and he goes, "Man, I just want to tell you thank you." He goes, because we don't text or anything like that. It's just all the time. And he says, "I just want to tell you thank you, man." He goes, "Like the shit that you put out," he goes, "like, I just take what's useful." Like, he goes, "You put a bunch of stuff that doesn't apply to me, but there are things that hit me." And he goes, "I just want to tell you how appreciative I am." I was like, that means the world, right? And so just really kind of getting into that and take that test. And then you've got to look how are you living that, or how you have to live it moving forward. But I want to end with this, if this is okay. As things are going to continue to get harder and more challenging and more uncertain over the next 6+ months, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you're not building deep foundations in your community, and you're not building your business and your brand and really deepening of relationships, there's a good chance you will not be in this business 3 years from now. I don't mean this to scare or this. I just shared my top strengths. I am of full optimism. I'm just telling you, I know what's happening in all markets across the country and what's about to happen. I've said this for the last 2 years. 3 to 5 years, we're good. The last half of this decade, we get into 30s, all bets off. All bets off. Now, those that have positioned themselves as a go-to authority, an expert that knows it, has built deep ties in the relationships in the community and with their client base, will survive everything. It won't matter, because real estate will still be a decision of trust. But what's happening with the institutional investors in this country, of what they're doing, and here's the other thing too. If you have an opportunity, if you have kids that are 18 or younger, or younger kids, and you have the ability to buy rental property in a entry level, mid-tier range, you better be buying it as much as you can. You better buy your kids a house right now. Because what's happening is that there will not be an entry level, middle class ability to buy a home in this country. Not going to be available. You're going to have to be earning. You're going to have to be $5 to $1 million plus range to be able to get a home in this country. So, if you have an opportunity, buy a home for your kids. Buy a home for them now. Don't wait. And so you've got to be paying attention to what's really going on. And so just know, not much is going to change over the next 3-4 years into the decade, but getting into the 30s, all bets off. So you got to do what you can do now within your control to build those relationships, to build your brand, to create trust, and do those things. But you have to build yourself first. And 2 of the most important things that we have to embody, we have to create disciplines around. Number 1 is we have to have some type of mindfulness practice. If you don't have some type of mindfulness practice, either through meditation, through prayer, through silence on a daily basis, 10 to 15 minutes minimum every day, that's number 1. You have to do that. That's the recharge for our mental, okay? Number 2 is you have to study and learn emotional intelligence. There are 5 core tenets of emotional intelligence. You better know all 5, and you better be improving in them every day. Those are the 2 things that will make you stronger and make you a better human, a better parent, a better leader, a better daughter, son, sibling, everything. are those two things. You better have some type of mindfulness practice, and you better know and study emotional intelligence.
Wow, John, this has been unbelievable. You always bring the fire. And I hope everybody that listened to this I hope they took a lot of notes. I hope they'll be reflective on this. And, just keep an eye. If you're not following John Kitchens, John, what's your Instagram?
At John Kitchens Coach everywhere. Everywhere, all platforms, at John Kitchens Coach.
Yeah. Just follow John. And, he'll help you, even if you're not coaching with him, just by being exposed to what he does, you'll be a better person. And we're so grateful for your time tonight, John. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God
Always an
bless.
honor.
God bless.
See you.